On that note, did you hear about that recent leak? I forget the details, but of Battlefield 5 supposed to be set in World War One.
Oh, are you serious? Yes, I didn't know that. What's up, guys, and welcome to the second episode of Podcast Reload. It's the general gaming podcast by Sifted.net subscribers, where we invite community guests onto the show to talk about the games industry in all its crazy, crazy ways. I am your host, Vin Hill, and joining us, as always, is my co-host and fellow Japan dweller, Evan Piotrowski.
Hello.
And joining us as well, of course, is our community guest from Sifted.net, who is joining us from the west coast of America, in California, I believe, through weird wires and weird inventions that we call microphones. Josh Morgan is on the show.
Hello, everyone.
Cool. So just to give someone a bit of context, what is your Sifted.net username, Josh?
It's my Sifted.net's basically my username everywhere is FSBAlston.
So you've got a picture of yourself on Sifted, because like when I changed my avatar, I think everyone was a bit like, who the hell is that guy? Oh, it's Vin. I think even you, Evan, you said welcome to the site by accident to me.
Right. I actually did that on purpose because I think last week when we were doing the audio test, we talked about how when you change your avatar, no one knows who you are.
I totally missed that.
Yeah, I think a couple of people called him out on it and said, hey, man, that's Vin. He's just changed his avatar.
Housekeeping. I'll come back later.
All right, cool. Let's move on to a bit of housekeeping. First of all, we have only got one correction from our first episode. Only one, which is pretty decent considering like how much we were mumbling and just rambling about and how choppy it all was. So the last week I actually said that the trial on Sifted was 14 days. This is incorrect. It's actually only 3 days now. It was originally 14 days back on the beta when it first started out, but I think Shane realized pretty quickly, and rightfully so, 14 days is way too excessive. Like 3 days is perfectly fine. I totally agree with it. I mean, after being on Sifted for a couple of hours, you're just like, oh, yeah, I get this. This is, all right, this changes everything. And that's it. That's our only one correction.
Good.
I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, I was waiting for a couple more to come in, but yeah, it's good. Only one.
Yeah, like I was expecting like a tsunami of just people saying, this was wrong, you said this wrong, this is wrong fact. It's like, oh, crap. Like we screwed up big time.
Final Fantasy VII is clearly the best game. You're wrong.
That conversation could go for years.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's the amount of arguments I've had about people that Final Fantasy VII is the best. It's like, no, it's just anyway. Yeah, anyway, we could talk about that all day. I also wanted to say a massive, massive thank you to everyone that listened to the show last week and actually gave us a lot of good feedback. You know, everyone's been really positive about it and just saying really nice things. And yeah, like the reception of it has been great, and it will improve. And I think a lot of people know that the quality of the show is going to get a lot better. So fingers crossed. But I also wanted to give a massive, massive shout out to Brent Phillips, who is actually the creator of the site. He actually makes the website on Sifted. But he has actually been really kind enough to actually pay for our SoundCloud subscription so we can actually keep the lights on for this podcast. So for that, man, seriously, I think from both me and Evan and every other future guest that we're going to have on the show, we really, really appreciate it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I can't believe you did that. I was blown away when you told me that, Vin. Brent, yes, huge thank you. Really, really appreciate you helping us out with all this stuff. Thank you very much.
I'm just finding that out myself. That's actually pretty amazing of him.
Yeah, I was really surprised.
He never ceases to amaze.
Nope.
Yeah, Brent is definitely the god of Sifted. He makes things work.
The demigod.
Yep.
Hell yeah. But yeah, other than that, the only other bit of housekeeping that we've really got is just to watch out for the audio side of this podcast, because I think Evan has got a new microphone.
That's right, and a pop filter.
But I'm still being a peasant and using my my laptop microphone, which is doing a good job, don't get me wrong, but I will be investing in a new microphone over the next couple of weeks. So we shall all be at the same quality level eventually.
Yeah. Well, Vin, don't feel too bad. The only reason I bought this mic is because I accidentally spilled half a beer on my wife's MacBook Pro, which I was using.
Nice.
And I had to buy her a new one. And I'm using my terrible Lenovo PC, so that mic wasn't cutting it. Yeah, I had to get this mic. Otherwise, I probably would have waited a bit.
All right, cool. Let's move on to our guest of this week, which is you, Josh. And we have a couple of questions for you, which we ask all of our guests, so our listeners can sort of gauge what sort of gamer you are. And the questions are, what is your number one platform of choice, and what is your favorite game of all time?
Let me get the favorite game out of the way because I really can't pick one. I mean,
Right.
I've been playing games ever since I was a little kid, so I really couldn't answer that question. So I'm just going to get out of the way by saying that it's got too many favorites. But I want to say the longest game I've ever spent time in would probably have to be the SOCOM series from PlayStation 2.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
That was like probably my most dedicated series. I've been in other stuff almost as long. I mean, most recently Metal Gear Solid 5, I threw 133 hours at. But I think SOCOM's probably the longest I've stayed dedicated to a single game. So if I had to pick a favorite, probably have to go off of metrics and pick that game.
Oh, fair play.
And platform of choice, I used to be back in the Nintendo NES and Super NES days. I used to be all straight Nintendo. Before Super Nintendo, I had Nintendo Entertainment System and a Sega Master System, so I played both sides.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a sister who used to get all of the Nintendo consoles, and I used to get all the Sega consoles. So when she started falling off the whole gamer side of things, I was basically stealing her console. So yeah, same boat. Like I was like, I've got Sonic and Mario, screw you all. Like it was nice to.
Yeah, you guys are lucky.
Yeah, I wasn't in that like 16-bit wars as you mentioned last week, Evan.
Yeah, I had a friend who lived across the alley that had the Genesis, as we call it in the States.
Of course, sorry.
It was one of those things where it's like shouting matches across the alley. Super Nintendo's better, blah, blah, blah.
Console wars back in the 90s, dude. I remember those in high school. But as soon as I heard that Sony was making the PlayStation and I knew their involvement with Super Nintendo, I told everybody Sony was going to come out swinging and was going to put Nintendo in its place. And they did during the PS1 days. And I've had PS1, PS2. And I also gave Xbox a chance at that time. And then I had the PS3, which was I think one of the rare times I was wrong about how things were going to turn out. I thought PS3 was going to kill Xbox 360. I learned a valuable lesson from that.
Yeah, and then that price, man,
it was the price. Yeah, it was the price, but they did play the long game on that. And then now we're at this current generation. I see how the current consoles are, so I've fully converted to PC. I've always had PC as sort of a side thing, but now I'm fully converted to PC. I don't know if I'd ever go back to consoles at this point. I'd have to see what they do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, the only reason why I've never gone to PC really is just because of the exclusives that Sony put out. That's the only thing that I can't turn away from. Just seeing games like The Last of Us and Uncharted and, you know, there's a few others as well. It's just like, I don't know if I can make the switch. But I'm definitely going to invest in a PC probably this year.
That's what made it such a hard decision. Is like Last of Us is a really good game. Movie. It's like a movie. Jeez.
Yeah, pretty well. There's going to be a movie soon, so it's all good. Okay, let's move on into our small three topics. And basically, in the small three, we each pick anything from the games industry. It can be a new game. It can be a game that we really hate, a game that we're really excited about. It can be a game in news, anything about the industry. It can be absolutely anything. And of course, we're going to have our guest kick us off. So with that, what is your small three topic of the week, Josh?
Well, I thought I'd bring up franchise revivals being a thing this year, especially with in May, Doom, Mirror's Edge, Homefront all coming out within weeks of each other.
Yeah, good games.
Yep.
Yeah, they are good games. And everybody's looking forward to Doom. People that know about Mirror's Edge are definitely looking forward to Catalyst. I don't know if anybody's looking forward to Homefront.
I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited about Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I mean, I was a huge, huge fan of the first one. So, yeah, I'm definitely there with you.
Yeah, and then they just announced System Shock 3, which has got everybody going, what?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Was that this week? I think, right?
No, that wasn't this week. It was not too long ago, but they were saying that something was being done. They haven't given much more than that.
Yeah, and they recently announced that Warren Spector is helping in some capacity, right?
Yeah, they announced that was the recent announcement.
Okay, yeah, right.
But yeah, System Shock 3 was just announced, and then all these Kickstarter spiritual successors, man. There's like I was writing down a list, and I stopped at a certain point when I realized how many there were out there. I was like, wow. And
Yeah,
this is
there's a
only
few.
over the last 2 years, and most of them are just now getting developed and starting to show early release and betas and stuff.
Yeah, I think Mighty Number 9 has sort of put out like a bad name for the spiritual successors sometimes. But there is, I mean, looking at games like Ukulele for Banjo Kazooie, that looks amazing, and I'm sure them guys are going to do a great job.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm kind of worried that Mighty Number 9 has put a bad stink over the whole sort of franchise revival on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Josh?
It's always the bad ones that get the most attention, but there's, like I said, there's like tons of good ones out there. When you think about the history of it, there's actually been a lot of good Kickstarters. It's just a few ones that put a big bad name on everybody else. But the Banjo Kazooie one is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it does look really interesting. I mean, I'm really excited to see what they do with the current gen consoles and PCs of this day and age. Because Banjo Kazooie, when was the last one? Was it on Nintendo 64?
A long time ago. Yeah, I think it was 64.
I think wasn't Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts on the 360?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's a good point. I don't know how well was that received though. Do you guys know?
It's weird. I know people that are massive Banjo Kazooie fans that absolutely hate Nuts and Bolts, but
right.
The Giant Bomb guys always talk about, and pretty much across the board with the whole crew, they talk about how great that game was. I've never played it. I don't know. It doesn't look like a Banjo Kazooie game to me, but they argue that that's a good thing.
So, as this is your topic, Josh, what sort of franchises would you like to see, like come back from the dead or be revived in certain ways?
Well, oh man, like I said, I was thinking of a few that I wanted, and then I'm seeing this list, and almost every one I could think of is being brought up. Like this one I just found, Nightcry is being made by the same people that made Clock Tower, and is actually borrowing some artists and developers from Silent Hill, and I didn't even know about that till
Neither
this
did
week.
I've literally, you're the first person to tell me this, so I have no idea. I'm definitely going to check that out now.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out, but I'm gonna hold my breath because Evil Within was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Resident Evil.
Right.
Of course, that was a major production, so there's a big difference there. But another one I've looked forward to is Bloodstained and Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Inafune does with Mighty Number 9. I mean, I know it's getting a lot of hate at the minute because of all the delays and the art style is looking a bit different to how it was originally pitched. But, it could be a really great game. It could come out and just be like this massive hit. So, yeah, I'm excited for it.
But there was one, I actually did back one, and that was H-Hour, which is supposed to be a spiritual successor to SOCOM. But things have changed, and it's on early access on Steam. I'm kind of holding my breath for that, too. I don't know if it's going to turn out as well as I hope it is. I actually need to go back and see what changes they made over the last year, but the SOCOM community is very, very volatile, and I'm hearing a lot of negative things, but that could be nothing. So I have to go back and check on my $25 investment.
How long has that game been in development?
A couple years. I think it's been on early access since May last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting with Kickstarter. I mean, we see a lot of games which sort of pop up, which publishers sort of say, I don't think gamers want this anymore. It's not going to make as much money. And the developers are just sort of branching off and going to make it anyway. And there's a massive cry out for that. I mean, recently there was Battalion 1944, which is a World War II multiplayer shooter. And a lot of people thought that the World War II thing was dead. No one wanted it anymore. But as soon as this trailer came out, it's like, oh my God, we want that again. That would be amazing. Because of all these, like Call of Duty and all these other video games have sort of gone like to the future tech side of things or the modern warfare thing. And they've sort of forgotten about the whole World War II aspect of it. So it's really interesting to see so many people see like this resurgence of all these people excited for a World War II shooter again. It's really strange.
On that note, did you hear about that recent leak? I forget the details, but of Battlefield 5 supposed to be set in World War I.
Oh, are you serious?
It's just a leak right now. It's a rumor, but if it turns out to be true, that's going to be an extreme direction that EA takes it.
Live reaction from Vin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge Battlefield fan, so yeah, that would be. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. Anyway, so Evan, what franchise would you like to see come back?
I think. Are you saying aside from the kicks, the ones that?
Yeah, ones that haven't been announced whatsoever, and you think, man, it's been years since we've seen that franchise. Why did that ever go away? Like, what would you see? What would you like to see come back?
And yeah, I think that's kind of not the opportune thing, but just time. Like how much time has passed since the game this great game had come out. So a lot of these games like haven't seen a decent Castlevania in a long time.
Right.
Mega Man haven't seen that. Resident Evil, well, that's a completely different argument or story. But
yeah.
I would say in terms of a game that, yeah, it's like we haven't really seen one of these games in a while, or I would say probably Chrono Trigger.
It's a good pick. I mean, it's been when Chrono Trigger came out back in 1994, and then Chrono Cross followed a few years after on the PS1.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a long time. I'd really like to see a Chrono Trigger game.
Yeah.
Like have you played Chrono Trigger, Josh?
Yeah. I played Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, so they're extremely good.
Yeah, amazing games.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I didn't play Chrono Cross when it first came out. I think I got around to it, I believe 2009 or 2010. And when I picked it up, I just blew through it in maybe a couple weeks. I really, really enjoyed it. The story is ridiculously complex. It's way too complicated.
Yeah.
Because it's this parallel universe time travel thing, and I would say I like Chrono Trigger better in terms of story because it's more simple. Like they do jump between time periods, but the story is the same. Like there is this creature that crash landed on Earth, and they basically have to kill it. That's the story. It's that simple. But Chrono Cross is. I think I've read that Wikipedia article at least 10 times, and I can't relate to you right now. It's so ridiculously complicated.
So what you're saying is would you like to see a sequel, or would you like to just see a complete reboot like on the current generation?
Man, that is a really good question. I would go with either. I think there was actually there was a group of people that were trying to get a Chrono Trigger, like a 3D, almost like Dragon Quest 8.
I know exactly what you mean. It was originally being developed for the GameCube.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, they had screenshots, they had video of it, and it looked amazing. It was like, oh my God, they're making a remake of Chrono Trigger on the GameCube. But it just, I think it got the old snip from Squaresoft when they were joining Enix. So yeah, it's an unfortunate thing.
That's another thing. Like, I could go with a reboot or not even I don't even know if you could really continue the story of Chrono. I know Chrono Cross had to do with Lavos as well, so that was kind of the connection. But then the next question is, well, do you want it to be like a high-res like 2D game, like, pixel art, or do you want it to be, like Dragon Quest Heroes, Akira Toriyama 3D, open world Chrono Trigger game? That's the next thing. And I don't know. It really depends on how the game turned out. I could go for either, to be honest. But it would be cool to see a new Chrono Trigger. Well, if you don't want a full, like, fleshed out, like, 60-hour Chrono Trigger story, that's fine. They'll release it episodically anyways, so it'll be fine.
Touche,
yeah, one episode, one time period.
Oh God! Just don't even joke, man. Don't even joke. Christ.
Oh, I could see them doing that too.
Honestly, the thing that scares the crap out of me, like last E3 when we saw Final Fantasy VII get announced, and just seeing the reactions from like fans of the series, and then just hearing about it being episodic, like I'm really torn between I want it to fail and I want it to succeed. Because if it succeeds, then there's going to be a lot more episodic games coming out from Square, which is awful. Like, I just don't want that. It's going to be horrible. But if it fails, then we don't get a good Final Fantasy VII remake, and it's a lose-lose, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that is a good point. Yeah, I think I might be in the same boat as you. Like, I want this game to be good. I would love to play like the game that they showed us. I want to play that game. But then, yeah, I don't want them to think that this episodic structure is where they need to go from here on out.
Yeah, I a few years ago when The Walking Dead won Game of the Year, I was very happy for that game to win Game of the Year. It was a great game. But the thing that really threw me off that game winning was the fact that it was episodic, you know?
Mm.
And as soon as it won Game of the Year, I was like, oh no, so many other games are going to come out and do this. And
The ironic thing is the only successful company that's pulling it off, except for Capcom's one-off with Revelations 1, has been Telltale Games.
yeah, you're right. But I think there's still going to be a lot of people trying it, like Square, like with AAA
There's still
games.
people trying it.
Yeah, it's
Like, they
interesting,
almost
right?
went that route with Deus Ex. They're definitely going that route with the Final Fantasy remake. They did Revelations 2, and they're going towards the direction. Like, the way Telltale does it is they build each one where it's isolated as its own game. But everybody else is trying to build the whole game and then slice it up into pieces. And it creates this inconsistency between each episode, and people can tell the difference.
Like working in the games industry myself, like I see like how games are made, and we're constantly changing things and making it better as we're basically putting content into the game. So for me to consider making a game in pieces like that to a finished standard is really, that's got to be hard work. I can't imagine when it gets to the point when they get to episode 2 and they find like a fix that they could put in or a feature that could make the game twice as good, and they're just physically not allowed to do it.
But could you imagine developing the game like you only develop the first episode, it sells well, and then a couple months later you finish up the second episode, and then you actually do that separately from the first?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it'd just be really strange to me to do that.
It'd be different.
Yeah, it'd be very different. But like, what? Like, it flipped out on its head. I mean, what if the first episode bombed? You know, it was really bad.
Well, then the publishers would be like, "Well, we're not making them anymore. We're just going to cut off on this game."
This is true. That's a good point, actually, because I suppose that would be the whole point of the episodic content, right? So there's no risk.
Well, there'd be less risk. I mean, they still have to pour all the money, because once you got the first episode done, you have all those assets already made, so it wouldn't be that hard to carry it over.
True.
So they'd still have to make that initial investment, but after that, yeah, they could probably cut their losses and save all that manpower afterwards.
Yeah, I suppose there's all the marketing and all that sort of stuff. There's probably a lot of money going into that. I don't know. For me, when it comes to the game which I would pick, I would definitely look at the Tenchu series.
Yeah, my friend was actually, we had this conversation over on Google Chat that he wanted that series to come back.
Yeah, I'd really like to see it come back. I mean, I understand why it hasn't come back, because it's made by From Software, and they're the guys that are working on the Dark Souls series and Bloodborne and things like that. And they're making way too much money on that stuff. So, like, I can understand.
The idea.
Yeah.
Imagine Dark Souls with Tenchu setting.
Oh God, you're teasing me.
I love that game. That would be really cool.
Somebody would pay for that.
I would pay for that. I would pay for that. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons. Like, I went off and I made all this fan artwork for an Assassin's Creed set in Japan. That's exactly why I did it, because I want like a current generation Tenchu. That's the main thing. You know, I want to be a ninja running around on rooftops in current gen graphics. Like, I tried to play Tenchu 1 and Tenchu 2 on the PS1 not too long ago. And God, they're awful to play. Like, they live in the land of nostalgia, you know?
Yeah, so in terms of, for a Tenchu game, what kind of Tenchu game would you like to see? Would you like to see the Assassin's Creed open world Tenchu, or something like Splinter Cell where you have separate missions to where you're going to assassinate someone and you have like a goal in an actual level, and then when that's over, you just move on to level 2.
Dishonored style. No, I know Dishonored would actually be a good template to use too.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, though, I'd definitely keep it open world. I mean, the whole Assassin's Creed sort of fits into it. That's why I really want them to do an Assassin's Creed set in Japan. Noise the hell out of my idea, I haven't done it yet. But the whole reason why I like open world is because when they say, okay, go and kill this guy, this woman, whatever, go and do it however you want. And I really like that aspect to it. It's not just, okay, you have to, the level wants you to go through it in a certain way, in a cinematic sort of timeline, instead of just saying, okay, here's all your tools, just go do it however you want to do it to your play style. I think that's really why Metal Gear Solid 5 was really well received as well. It's just because they said, okay, there's a dude on the other side of the map, go. And I really like that aspect to it. So, like, we saw that in the current generation. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I feel bad. My friend I was talking to about this. He's been telling me to play Tenchu for years, but I had actually never played one, and I don't know if I want to go back. You just, kind of said that they're just not. They haven't aged very well.
Yeah, you can't play them now. I mean, if you go, you might be able to go back and play Tenchu Z, which is on the 360, but it wasn't well received by journalists whatsoever. I mean, I actually really enjoyed that game. It was one of my games, where you're embarrassed to play it, but you still love it, and everyone else like, oh my god, do you like that game? It's like, yeah, I do like this game. I feel dirty, but it's actually a really great game. I really enjoy it.
Maybe it's like going back to the first Tomb Raider or something.
What did you think about the whole Tomb Raider reboot?
Well, I was gonna say I posted a big blog about that.
Oh, really? How did you feel about it?
Well, like I said, the first one, it just felt like they were trying to get their feet wet and see what the reaction would be. But now that they got the origin story out of the way, now it's like Rise of the Tomb Raider just runs with it. It doesn't do anything new, but it does everything right. And that might be good for it, because the last time they screwed up Tomb Raider is when they decided to experiment with it.
Right. Yeah. I cannot wait to play Rise of the Tomb Raider. I only dabbled in the series leading up to the reboot, I guess you could say. When did the reboot come out?
2013.
13? Okay, yeah. So yeah, I only dabbled in the series previously, and picked it up on PlayStation Store sale, and oh man, I was blown away. That game is so good. I actually 100%ed it. I didn't platinum it because it requires you to get bullshit trophies in multiplayer in order to do that. But the actual single player mode, I did everything. It was I cannot wait to play Rise of the Tomb Raider when it comes out.
Rise of the Tomb Raider has a lot more tombs too.
Yeah, that's
tombs and crypts and weird places to go into that aren't part of the main story.
That's good to hear. I mean, the one thing which I didn't like about the first one. Well, I loved the first one. The first one was great
everybody's complaint about the first one. It was just not enough stuff tombs, to explore. Man. Yeah,
just not enough tombs. It's just like I love that stuff. Just going, okay, it's just Lara. She's inside this cave. It's like, okay, get to the other side, and it's just puzzle. It's pure just thinking about how to get through that situation instead of reacting with gun mechanics and shooting all the time. I really enjoyed that.
One thing about those tombs though is like each tomb hinged on one single puzzle. Like once you figured out one thing, then
that doesn't change.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay. I mean, it does take time to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot more of them now, so it's a lot better than just having 4 of these tombs, 4 simple puzzles, and boom, there's the rest of the game.
Right, and I like how you just kind of naturally stumbled onto some of those tombs. Like, I'm just climbing this the side of this mountain, and I'm supposed to go over here, and I'm like, oh, what is this? And you go in, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's one of the tombs. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that they do that as well.
Yeah, I was a bit worried when I was playing Tomb Raider, just like how much shooting there was, just constantly. I was like, okay, like I want to get back to a tomb now. I don't want to be shooting guys all day. But that sort of leads into a nice little segue, because we're actually going to move on to Evan's topic now, which is about single player shooters. And I think Tomb Raider sort of falls into that. So do you want to explain what your topic is about, Evan?
Yeah, so recently I've been playing a lot of shooters in succession. I think the last 3 games I've played have all been shooters. And each game is slightly different from the other, but still they're all around good shooters in their own way. So I was kind of thinking, there are so many variables in a shooter, whether that be extra mechanics or level design or enemy placement, all those types of things.
Yeah.
And so my topic for the week is what is a good shooter and why? The 2 that I'm going to talk about are just the 2 most recent games that I've beaten, which are Splinter Cell Blacklist and Resident Evil Revelations 2. I was playing Blacklist and just absolutely loving the game. It's just so much fun. I think for the most part, in a lot of third person shooters, that just the general quality of aiming is, I think we've reached parity. You know, if it's a quality game, usually the aiming is on point.
No pun intended,
No,
right?
not at all. So I started thinking like, okay, so why do I like this game so much? And more specifically, how are the other mechanics in the game that revolve around the shooting elevating it as a shooter? And so what I kind of pinpointed were actually two things. One being how you move in the game, and more specifically the cover systems. But one thing the game does really well, and I haven't played Chaos Theory, so I don't know if this was in Chaos Theory, but if you move the reticle, if you hover over something in your general vicinity, like whether that be a wall or something you can hide behind, if you tap the button again, he'll just slide from cover to cover.
Recently, I played the Division. I don't know if you guys have jumped into the beta at all, but in the Division, the way that the cover mechanics work on that game, you'd probably really like it, actually, Evan, based on what you've said. But you sort of snap to a wall, and then you can, like, looking over the top of cover in third-person mode, you can look at another piece of cover and hold a button. And when you hold the button, you'll jump over the cover and run towards that as you're holding the button, so you don't have to actually control him. And in that sort of stance as well, he'll keep ducked down low, so other enemies can't see you and stuff. So it actually works quite fluidly.
The problem with Division is it's using an MMO RPG style system. So it's not the Division. You're playing, how many headshots does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll?
Yeah, I don't know how to reconcile that. Like, I would have to play it to see, but it does seem a bit annoying. Like, I popped that guy in the head 3 times. Come on. But
and he's only down 30% health.
Yeah. I don't know. I would have to play it to see.
The counter argument for that, though, would be like in Destiny. I mean, some bosses just had a ridiculous amount of health. It's pretty much no different in that respect.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can't say. I mean, I've only played like a slice of the game, so how it'll actually feel when you start getting better weapons and better like upgrades and stuff. Like maybe it'll play completely different.
The other thing that I really like in the game is the mark and execute mechanic, which I believe was in Chaos Theory. So basically, you have a meter in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. If you do things in the game, I always played it Panther style, which is somewhere between action and Ghost, to where I'll kill people, but I won't be spotted. So what you can do is you can build up this execute meter, and let's just say you're hiding behind a piece of cover. Let's just say there's like a commune of soldiers. And like lots of games, you can kind of tag the characters. So even if they break apart and they move behind a cover or something, you can kind of see their silhouette like through walls and stuff. Yeah, so you can tag them. Once you tag them, if your meter's full, all you do is tap, I think it's R1 or one of the buttons, and you'll shoot them all in succession at the same time without being caught. And I just think that it's being so considerate to the player, especially in a stealth game. Like, how many times have you played a stealth game where it's like the only way to not be caught is to wait for one person to break away from a party? Whereas, like, if you're playing as this cold-blooded assassin, he should be able to pick off 3 guys without alerting. So yeah, so like, okay, for example, after I played Blacklist, I started playing Far Cry 4, and I'm on top of this mountain, and I want to conquer this fortress without being detected. So there's like a commune of guys, like 3 guys, and I've tagged them all. And I'm like, if I shoot this guy in the head, the other guys are going to be alerted right away.
Right.
Or at least start looking for
I've
me.
never liked that about games, where if you take out one guy, like everyone else is like automatically, like, we know exactly where the guy is, let's go and get him. Like, I hate that.
That's where I hope that I can lean on the game's aiming mechanics and actually use it, because that's one thing they did really well in Metal Gear Solid 5, is the aiming is spot on, and the enemy reactions. If you take one dude out, the other guy kind of has like a moment where he's kind of freaked out for a minute. So if you're really good with your aiming, you can nail it, but not a lot of people can do that in games. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember in Metal Gear Solid 2, which was the first game I ever saw, and this blew me away the first time I ever saw this, but if a guy saw you, if you missed a shot or something, it's like, oh crap, there's a dude there. He would actually get his radio out and call. And if you could get your shot right, like if you shot his walkie-talkie while he was in mid-sentence, like saying, hey, there's a dude here, like it would break his walkie-talkie and he'd be like, oh crap, my walkie-talkie. And he couldn't alert the other enemies. And that, like back in 2001, blew my mind. That was just like,
Right.
what this... Going from the PS1 to
I'm wondering, could you do that in 5? I never think to try.
I don't know.
Probably can.
You probably
I
can,
don't
yeah.
know.
I would assume you could. But yeah, it's incredible.
There's crazy things you could do in that game.
Yeah, there's so many pioneer things in Metal Gear Solid 2. I could talk for days about that game.
We might have to at some point. But like exactly what you guys are bringing up. Like, and I remember people talking about that. Josh, you were talking about how if you're about to be spotted, you have like that that small window to kill that guy before he alerts other people.
Yeah.
Like it's so considerate to the player, and it has nothing to do with like making it the game is like less challenging. It's just it's being a more refined game. Like give the player a chance. You know, there's a big difference between, you know, you could snake your way through this mission and then just get spotted, and like you might want to just turn your system off at that point. But the game's just like, just give it a chance. Like make it fun but also challenging. And yeah, I was just sitting there with Far Cry 4, and it's like I should be able to just, I want the mark and execute button.
Yeah.
So
you know, the funny thing you mentioned that in Blacklist, if you are spotted and it is announced, you're pretty screwed at that point. They are all on alert.
Yeah, and I played it on hard, and you like 3 bullets in that game, 3 or 4, you're done. You'll die right away. And so yeah, it's just like
It's like that one scene where you guys got to take off in the plane and you're getting ambushed.
Oh my gosh, that is one of the hardest parts in the game.
That
yes.
was I don't know how many times I restarted that level. That was just pure annoyance.
Right.
Because they're expecting you to pull off the stealth and action elements while in the middle of an active firefight where everybody's already got their guard up. Make one slip up and it was like 50 people are shooting at you.
Yeah, you know, I think that stuff's a little silly too. Like in a game like Splinter Cell, where although they allow you to play in 3 different styles, it's like if you're ghosting the game, then they put you in this kind of set piece where you're forced to do action. I really don't like that type of stuff, and it's not like the scene was memorable enough to say like, well, okay, I get what they were going for. Even though I'm playing Ghost, it was still an enjoyable scene. It's like no, it was just really frustrating.
It annoyed the heck out of me.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll pass it off to you guys, but just I would say that chaining stealth and this mark and execute thing just made the game, it just elevated everything about it. And without those 2 things, I don't think it would have been as good of a game as I think it was. So how about you guys? What is a good shooter, and why do you think so?
For me, I would. It's a tough one because when I'm playing like in a third-person sort of action adventure game, which has got shooting mechanics like that, I think games like The Last of Us are like perfect examples for me personally, because they constantly keep me moving as a character. Like this obviously goes for stealth as well. I mean, if a guy is walking around and I've got to flank around, but if they've got intelligent AI, that's my most important part of a shooter. Like if they're constantly making me move and they're flanking around and they're like being intelligent, then that's what excites me about shooters more than anything.
That's a great point.
In regards to the mechanics which you spoke about, I think Red Dead Redemption is probably a good example of mark and execute. And recently I've been replaying that game, and just like the feeling of satisfaction that you get out of just popping off like 7 guys after a mark and execute, and you blow the end of your gun and you put it away and you're like, yeah, screw you guys. Like that's a great like little sense of achievement that the player gets. I think that's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, it gives you like a 5-second power fantasy when you pull that off.
Yeah. But it's like you said, it's that battle between, you know, what can the player do as a human being versus what can the actual character do. And I think, again, that balance is really clever. I mean, using, like, John Marsden is a way better killer than I will ever be. And the fact that they say, okay, you sort of hand it off to him, just guide him how to do it. I mean, that's a really interesting sort of approach to it, you know? It's not just, no, it's all you, good luck. You know, it's like, dude, I'm not a trained killer. I haven't been through all these situations that this guy has actually been through. So you're gonna have to give me some part of a chance, and not to make it easier, as you say. It's just handing off the flag sort of thing for that 1 second. I think that's a really interesting aspect.
Right, and it's like in Far Cry 4, I might be able to, like those guys that are communing and talking in a group, I might be able to pull off like 2 really cool like sniper headshots from 300 meters, but I'm not going to get them all. And then they're going to sound the alarm, and I'm just going to be like, give me the mark and execute. It'll make the game more fun. The game is still challenging. Yeah.
They need to limit it in a way. That's the only thing. It's strange to get a balance in that. I mean, for third person games, that it's strange because in Red Dead Redemption, I sort of feel the mark and execute was sort of put in on purpose to sort of balance the crappy like character controls, because it's got really terrible character control. All GTA games have.
And that's probably the one thing I think that makes a good shooter in any game is that it gives you character control in a solid way. It gives you character control and character options where your character isn't like stumbling out of cover while you're trying to take a shot and your bullet just goes flying off to Alabama. So hopefully it sends you a postcard. Like I need my games to feel responsive, especially if I'm playing on a gamepad. I need that. I need to feel that analog response. Be precise. If I tell you to move a little bit, I don't need you to trip over a rock and go flying downhill right in front of 5 soldiers.
Yeah, that stuff is annoying, and it kind of breaks the illusion. You know, I'm like, oh.
How about you, Josh? What game would you sort of say that is a good benchmark for a good shooter?
Pretty much, SOCOM is a benchmark for me. Tomb Raider is a good one. I do think they did a very good job on Far Cry. I do think so. I mean, it does take a lot of player skill to actually pull off those ambushes without any kind of assist.
Yeah.
And like you said, Splinter Cell does have the mechanics down right. It's just the scenarios they put you in don't let you make full use of those. Like, if Blacklist was more sandboxy, Blacklist would have been Metal Gear Solid 5.
You're exactly right about that.
The mechanics are just that solid. And I think Metal Gear Solid is also a good example of strong mechanics, like everything just put together well. But
I think Metal Gear Solid 5 is a great example.
Oh yeah,
I think Metal Gear Solid 5 it had the good cover mechanics. It had good consideration for the player's skill, like when it slowed down time, like you said, and just the overall stealth aspect. You constantly always felt like you're in control of Snake. Like there wasn't any moment in time where I'm like,
not only that, you could actually turn off all those assists and just do it on your own if you really feel confident in your ability.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the main point that we're probably all trying to get to, right? Is like just having, we don't want to be fighting against the game at any point, especially in a shooter, because you do need to have that precision.
Yeah, there's a difference between giving you a difficult situation and then making it so it's hard for you to be able to accomplish that situation because the controls fight you.
Yeah, that is a good way to say
it. The game mechanics themselves work against you.
Yeah, when I'm playing Red Dead, I'm just like the whole time I'm just like, oh man, John Marsden feels like I'm moving a wardrobe. That's like the only way I can describe it. It's like it's horrible.
He walks like he's drunk.
Yeah, all the time, right? And it's like when you're trying to aim a gun and he snaps to it, it's like that snapping to the enemy didn't come from the fact that the team thought that would be a good idea. They put that in there because they needed to. Otherwise, the player probably would have just like, fuck this game. It would have been horrible.
Oh, speaking of snapping or the kind of that lock-on type system.
Aim assisting.
Assisting, there you go. Yeah. Max Payne 3, the default setting is, I think it's like kind of lock-on. It'll kind of like...
It is.
Okay, yeah. I played the game on hard, and I turned that off completely. I did, and I'm not saying I'm not really good at shooters at all. I'd say I'm okay at them. But I turned the lock on off, and I just went straight my aiming, and it worked completely fine. And the game wasn't frustrating. I died a lot, but that's just because it was hard. But just the general aiming in that game without the auto lock or the shooting assist, it was good. That's another good example of a game that had good shooting, I think.
That game only frustrated me. I can't clearly remember the situations because the game was overall good, so they were forgettable. But there were a few frustrating situations where I got disoriented by the level. Like I got dropped into this one spot. I'm like, what? Who's shooting at me? Which one of y'all shot me? And I'm like not trying to figure out the situation before I can even like get into the fight.
Yeah, there's some levels where there's a lot of
Especially in Brazil.
verticality to them. Yep. Those are there's like the favelas and
Yeah, the favelas. Oh God, especially when you're
yeah.
dropping into certain buildings.
Yeah, and you'll get, especially on hard, you get hit like 2 or 3 times and you're done.
Yeah, and you have no idea where the dude just shot you from. You're like, what? I swore he wasn't there.
Yeah, it's one of those games where I think it sounds like I'm going back on what I just said, but it's one of those games where, like, in order to beat a certain level, you kind of have to say, okay, guy on the top left, he comes first. Okay, then guy comes out the door. Then I shoot
Well, Max
him.
Payne isn't a stealth game; it's more of a shooter with
Right.
bullet time mechanic. But
That's a good point.
But by the time I got through that difficult Brazil level, I got to the airport. I was like John McClane in that sucker. I was like, "Where's that last dude? I want to kill this guy."
Yeah. That game
Like
was,
I wasn't having any problems now. I was just mowing these dudes down.
yeah, that game is a really fun shooter, I think. And then okay, I think we're getting a bit long on it, but briefly, I wanted to talk about. I'm a massive like survival horror fan. I don't even know what survival horror means at this point in 2016, but
Yeah, it's twisted
Alien
and changed so
Isolation.
much.
yeah, I recently played through Resident Evil Revelations 2. I haven't played Revelations 1, so I don't know whether or not some of these mechanics were in the first game, but I played Revelations 2 maybe a couple months after I played through 3 of the campaigns in 6. So I would say sometime around September, October last year, I played through Leon, Chris's, and I don't even remember anymore. Who cares? But I played through a couple of the Resident Evil 6 campaigns, and
How was the shooting in that though? Like, how was the actual game?
The shooting
mechanics
is
in that game?
okay, but one thing I hate, and this is a good point for just movement in shooters. Do you know how some games, no matter what direction you move the character, their head is positioned where the reticle is. So, for
Right.
example, if the reticle is forward, like in Dead Space, and you press back, what's his name? Isaac?
Yeah,
Yeah, he just kind of backs up while you're still looking forward.
yeah.
Or he'll just, left to right, he'll just move left and right, still looking forward. But then in Resident Evil 6, if you press back, Leon or whoever you're playing they'll turn around.
Oh god, that feels weird.
It's so annoying, like, especially when you want to.
Wasn't that what 6 was like?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't that how Resident Evil 6 mechanics were like?
In turn, like, you mean like Dead Space or?
No, I mean, like, if you told them to go a different direction, they'd actually turn and go in that direction, but still look toward the reticle.
I see. This might be a correction. We might get floods of emails. That's
It'll
saying a
be a
lot. That's
correction
saying a lot
against
about the podcast. It's just and email. Actually,
That game
now
was so forgettable, though.
I might be going back on what I said, but I just remember, for example, there's a switch I needed to hit. So you need to position yourself like somewhere close to the switch to be able to activate for the button prompt to come up. So like I'd push forward with Leon and it doesn't come up, and I'd push back and he'd just turn around and he's facing away from the switch. And it's just like I had to just like walk in circles before that button prompt would show up, whereas in most games my head would be facing forward and I just kind of have to manipulate my movement a little bit to position myself. But this game was just like running in circles because he's facing whatever direction I aim him in.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I remember the reason why I couldn't get into Resident Evil 5 and the reason why I disliked it so much was because I played Dead Space 1 before I played Resident Evil 5. And in Dead Space 1, you can walk while you aim. So if you aim down sights, you can still move your character around. Whereas in
Right.
Resident Evil 5, you can't. You're not allowed to physically move your legs while you're aiming. And
in Resident Evil 4 as well, yeah.
I just can't. Like, I tried to replay Resident Evil 4 recently and I couldn't do it. I was just like, Dead Space has ruined me,
Right. But I think in terms of the level design and the enemy placement.
Oh yeah, very different game.
Resident Evil 4 it's built better for that kind of system, whereas it's less of an excuse in Resident Evil 5, where they just added more situations where you have to be moving a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no excuse that you shouldn't be able to aim and walk at the same time.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, well, I don't know, maybe all this will change when we start playing first person shooters in VR or whatever. Which is a horrible segue. So in my topic, I actually wanted to talk about sort of like a VR hype check, and actually talk about like, what do you guys think about VR, and like, do you really think it's going to be as hyped as everyone's sort of pushing it up to be? Let's start off with you, Evan. Like, what do you actually think about VR? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's going to actually succeed?
Whether or not it's going to succeed, I don't know. I mean, the Vive, and I think Shane and Matt on Game Face, they touched on the price of Vive. It's like $800, right? This is coming from, like, me. I'm a console gamer. I have a PS3 and a Wii U, and I have a Lenovo PC that can like barely do anything. So when you say $800, that means $2,000 to me potentially.
Yeah, maybe even more.
Maybe even more. And I'm not even in the headspace to where I can actually sit down and say, like, okay, I'm going to build a gaming PC. And all right, do I do it myself? I know it's going to be cheaper. In the back of my head, I'm thinking I should do it myself because I could save money, but yet I don't really know exactly how to go about it. Or do I just like slam down, $2,000 to just get like a nice beefy rig? But that's the thing. Like, there's so many hoops that I have to jump through before I even consider purchasing VR. So I think when it comes to VR, the main thing, like, I'm going to follow how this all plays out. I really like the conversations. It's really, really interesting. But if anything, look at, like, I don't have a PS4 yet. We'll see what happens in E3. But, what if they announced a VR PS4 bundle? You know how much, I'm hoping it's $400. That might be a very conservative number, but
A PSVR bundle with the PlayStation itself?
with the PlayStation 4 itself, yeah.
It won't be less than 7 or 8. I don't think it'll be less than 7 or 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If they
I
bundle
meant
it.
I meant $400 for the VR bundled
Oh, no,
with
yeah,
the.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So maybe we're all kind of on the same page. Yeah. So I'm saying, like, look at what I have to do to be able to play the Vive or the Oculus Rift, or I could just drop $800. I have my PS4 and I can play my Uncharted 4 and all these, the Witcher 3. Man, there's so many games I need to play. My backlog is going to be enormous. But then on top of all those great things I have to look forward to, then I have this VR system that I know is going to work with the PS4, and I don't have to, dick around with all the other headaches that might come with setting up VR on the PC.
Yeah. So your main concern is mainly around the sort of the price entry point of it, like that being via buying a massive beefy sort of PC rig to run VR and then actually buy the expensive VR versus the PlayStation 4, which is going to have a much cheaper option.
And that's what a lot of proponents of VR don't understand. Like, all the people that are supporting it and be like, oh no, it's going to be the next great thing. A lot of people can't afford to put these kind of systems together to even run it. And the ones that the ones that can, that means they got to dive into actually building their own PCs, unless they want to fork the extra money just to have someone else do it. Plus, then you're diving into the extra headaches with PC compatibility issues, getting the thing to run in the first place in every single game. Any PC gamer could tell you, just trying to run a game on a strong rig, every game comes with a problem, no matter which game it is. Rarely have we had a game run smoothly on day one. Dealing with this with VR added on top of it, PlayStation, you just buy the PlayStation, buy the VR, guaranteed to work because everybody has the same system. They're going to develop it for the same architecture.
Yeah, it's streamlined.
It's going to be streamlined. Nobody's going to have problems with it. Everybody's going to plug and play it, and they're going to be able to afford it a lot more.
Yeah. So from that, Josh, do you think that the PSVR is going to be a bit more successful than the Oculus and the HTC Vive, or?
I guarantee it's going to be a bit more successful. But as far as VR in general, I've been saying it all over Sifted. I think it's going to be a fad. I've been saying it for a long time since I've heard of it.
No, it's a fair comment.
I think it's going to go down like 3D TVs did.
It's a fair comment. I think everyone's sort of it. The main thing for me is just looking at the whole marketing campaign behind this. Everyone's talking about it. There's this massive buzz about it. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of money being poured into this industry that doesn't even exist yet.
Right.
And it's really interesting just to watch how people are reacting to it, and only a very like a small handful of gamers compared to everyone at large, have actually only tested the thing, and they say, "Oh, it's the greatest experience in the world." You've got to try it to believe it, and all this sort of stuff. But I think you're right. Like, it could be a massive fad. I mean, this whole thing could totally bomb. Like, everyone could just be like, "It's too expensive. There's no good games for it. It's useless."
Well,
Like,
somebody
what
made the
hell?
point that the reason why it's so expensive right now is because that's the point of entry for a new market. Every time they come out with something new, they always price it pretty high, and then eventually it scales down as the market becomes saturated with more products. I don't think that's the case, though. The problem, everybody keeps forgetting this. The simpler it is to use, the more it's going to sell and the faster it's going to sell. And once
Yeah.
people are on that level, that's when it'll sell. But when you're asking people to $300 to $400 extra over to put something on their head that cuts them off from the outside world for a couple hours at a time to play a game, yeah, they're going to enjoy it for a bit, and then they're going to realize it gets in the way of other stuff, because a lot of people that play games can multitask, and putting on your VR headset takes all that away completely.
Yeah. For me personally, I mean, I'm extremely lucky, and I'm not rubbing it into any guys out there, but I've got a fiance that actually watches me play video games. She enjoys watching them. She doesn't like playing them. She just likes watching the story and stuff like this. But if it came to a point where a really engrossing story came along in a game, which you could only play on VR, then what is she going to do? Like, I know there's like second screen watching and stuff, but we look at each other all the time like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" and things like this. Like, that experience is gone with VR, right? Like, there's no reaction. Like, you're in your own world. You've got your own headphones on. It's just completely sort of detached, right?
Look on the bright side. She'll be changing your IV while you're stuck in a Sword Art Online or something like that.
Yeah. No, that is a good angle in terms of like the potentially bad thing that can come out of this. Yeah, it's one of those weird things too. Like you might have journalist from PCPlusMagazine.com that is a massive tech head that says it's the best thing ever, but that's his or her opinion might be so far removed from.
Oh no, I agree. It's the best thing ever.
Like an actual market.
3D TVs are the best thing ever. I had one for a while. I love 3D TVs. I still don't see it. I don't see it going to sell.
Sure.
Because I acknowledge that there's a mass of people out there that are not going to get this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it has to be like by the mass of people, right? Like, even if it is a great product and it's really amazing. Like, for me, like the PS Vita, for me, I think that's a great handheld. It's one of the greatest handhelds ever made. It's got an amazing screen. It's got great processing power, great battery life. It's an amazing handheld, but it just didn't sell. So if people don't buy it en masse, then it dies off with all the other fads, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I suppose 3D TVs would be along that line. But speaking about the price point, say if we did remove the whole PC aspect of it, say you didn't need a $2,000 rig to run Vive or Oculus, like is $600 to $800 too expensive still? Do you think, Josh?
Yeah. I also think the price builds into it, but I just think it's more of the more complicated and difficult it is, the harder it is going to be to sell it.
Okay. So like the ease of use is the most important thing.
Ease of accessibility, just to sum it all up.
Yeah. How about you, Evan? Do you think it's too expensive for what it is?
Yeah, so let's just say if all I needed was $800 and I could bring the Vive home and plug and play.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, yeah. Well, this really depends on if there's no software for it. Yeah, it is too expensive because there's no value in taking this $800 thing home and running tech demos,
Yeah. But yeah, for me personally, like I don't think like the price point for me, I don't think it's all that wild like at this point. There's a lot of people complaining and saying, "Oh, $600 is too much for Oculus." But really, if we look at TVs, when a TV first come out, because that's technically what a VR headset is, right? It's a TV.
Yeah, they were up into the thousands for every new tech.
Exactly. Like if you go look back at the price point for the first plasma TVs or the first 1080p TV,
or even the first 4K TVs.
Yeah, right. It's like $2,000-$3,000, and the fact that this new piece of tech came out and it's quote unquote only $600, is I don't think it's that wild. I really don't think for an entry point piece of tech like this, which has got a lot more functionality than a TV too. It's not just a static thing. Like it's got all these head tracking capabilities. It's got a lot of technology that a TV doesn't.
Yeah, that is a good point, though. It is essentially a TV, right? Like to play a PS4, you need a TV. Be the same
It's
thing.
strange to me to see like the whole gaming community say, "No, it's too expensive." It's like, is it really? It's too expensive to buy a new TV like with them capabilities. That's technically what the VR headset is, right? It's just really strange. Like it's really interesting to see how people react to these things because they're looking at it as a console piece. It's like it's a peripheral of the console.
Right.
I just had a crazy thought. Be in the Oculus and totally immersed in the game and all of a sudden get a freaking driver crash error. Can you imagine
It's going to happen.
No,
It's gonna happen.
like games like Batman, they like crashed on a regular basis. They were frustrating. Can you imagine that happening while you had the Oculus on? Boy,
That'd be
you'd
funny.
be ready to
Like
throw that thing across the room.
Like you're so immersed in the experience, like you think you died.
There you go.
My eyes don't work.
But like, what would happen if you're like in, I don't know, Just Cause 5 or whatever, and you're flying off a cliff in a wingsuit and suddenly your game crashes halfway through? Like, that's it. You've died and gone to heaven. Your brain doesn't know the difference.
Well, you didn't die to go to heaven. You died and they were staring at a big fat box in your head saying, yeah, driver crash terror.
That's terrifying to even think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I honestly, I think I'm not that interested in VR to buy it like day one. I think it's going to be a many few years before I even consider buying a headset of any kind. But I do think it will survive. And it's going to survive for the reason that Matt brought up, and which very few journalists are sort of even discussing right now or even talking about. And that's the adult porn industry. I honestly think that's going to be a huge aspect to this. The
3D
fact that
TVs are still out there too. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to disappear altogether. There'll be a niche market for everything.
Exactly.
I just don't think it's going to be a big hit like everybody thinks.
No, I think it will survive, though. I don't think it's going to be a huge hit.
That's the other thing. Everybody's trying to say it's going to be super successful because the porn industry is going to explode. It's like, yeah, you don't realize most people that are doing porn are trying to do it privately, and you're kind of cutting off all lines of communication when you put one of those things on.
No, it's a good point.
I mean, yeah, but if you gonna do your business and you open the laptop, you make sure doors are locked and all the people in the house are asleep and won't wake up till the morning. You know what I mean? Like there's ways around to secure your privacy even in a busy household.
Not many people live by themselves in their own house, I can guarantee you that. They either have friends or family or still live with their parents or have children or have to deal with some kind of situation where they only have limited capability of being completely in a private setting. Well, and the ones ones that do live by themselves, well, they'll probably buy it anyways because they have money to blow.
Hey, as Jeff Goldblum said, life finds a way. Someone will.
There you go. That's a good quote.
But yeah, it was interesting. Like a couple of months ago, Lucky, like the guy who obviously invented the Oculus Rift and came up with the idea and marketed it and all that sort of stuff. Like he was actually asked by Variety. He was asked, like, what do you think about the Oculus Rift being an open platform for like the porn industry? And he literally said, quote, "The Rift is an open platform. We don't control what software we can run on it, and that's a big deal." End quote. Yeah. And it's like he knows full well like what people are going to be doing with this thing, but that opens it up to a wider thing as well, like outside of like the adult porn industry as well. I'm more excited to see this stuff in like museums and saying, hey, you can walk around ancient Greece, like just put on this headset for an hour and you can just walk around and just see people like trying to sell you stuff from 2,000 years ago or whatever. Like that stuff excites me more.
I'll just sleep through this. Just give me a wake-up call when they invent the holodeck.
Yeah, we do need a holodeck. That'll be the next invention. But yeah, I'm interested to see how VR does. It's a really interesting case study. Like looking at the industry and how people are reacting to it versus the price point. It's a lot of contributing factors,
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. It's going to be a case study for me. I'm not going to go out to buy it anytime soon. But yeah, I think in summation for me, just if I'm going to, try VR or buy VR. I think at this point, Sony's VR set will be the first that I will probably try if I do. And yeah.
If I get one, it'll have to be a really, really, really good game that gets my attention for it. Not interested in it yet, so. But I never say no because something changes.
That's a very
same
good
for me.
point.
I mean, I do not even want to look at VR to buy it until they've got that killer app. You know, like I didn't buy an original Xbox until Halo came along.
And I know everybody's gonna correct me and be like, dude, Star Citizen, shut up.
Yeah, right. That's not a killer app yet. Like it's a
great
to be a killer
great
app.
flight sim. Great, cool. I understand. Especially, and then there's Valkyrie. Cool. I understand. I'm talking one that can do all that stuff and pretty much has it all boxed in like Grand Theft Auto. Then we'll talk.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, okay, moving on. We'll move on to our content callouts. So in content callouts, we basically go onto sifted.net and we choose a piece of content. It can be anything from the forums, it can be an article, it can be anything that we want. We just want to bring it to light so people can sort of check it out. So do you want to kick us off, Josh, with your content callout?
I just wanted to point out the pro tips that Brent linked in the top of the page where it says start here. And it shows you everything you can do on Sifted with your user account.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in there which I didn't even know about.
I knew about most of it. I think I missed one or two, but I only knew about most of this because Brent would always constantly let us know about the updates that he changed, things that he changed.
Yeah.
And even then, I completely glossed over being able to mute certain content, and I didn't even know it was in there already. I was like, "What?" So I couldn't do it.
I know. I forgot about that as well.
Yeah, there's like everything here, and all you have to do is when you at the top of the page it says "Start Here," right where it says "Premium Popular Community," all that just says "Start Here," and it's a big, nice, fat, nice, clean post, tells you everything. And on a quick note, I wanted to point out we also have a Steam group, and that's been posted in the forums as well for anybody that's missing that.
Awesome. Yep. Cool. So join the Steam group if you are a PC gamer, and you've got how many followers?
We're
have
at
you got
24.
Now?
I think 25 now because I added one guy while we were talking.
Yeah, it's growing. Good stuff. How about you, Evan? What is your content call out?
All right. So my sifted content call out of the week is the video game fantasy draft. And just to give people a bit of a rundown on what that actually means, last year, and this is even before I think Sifted, the site was actually up. So Shane is a massive fantasy football player. And so he kind of conceptualized the idea like, well, why don't we do that for video games? So to get the exact rundown and how this works, I actually recommend that everyone watch Game Face Episode 2, and I even have a timestamp here where he explains exactly how it works. It's at the 33-minute and 32-second mark. And the cool thing about this is this Game Face Episode 2 is free on YouTube, so anyone can watch it.
Oh, banging. Perfect.
Yeah. And then also for premium users, if you want to check out the premium video, Sifted Fantasy League Draft 2016, and this is the video where Shane and Matt choose their games for their fantasy draft for this year. So last year it was Shane and Marcus, and this year it's Shane versus Matt. Yeah, so basically what you're going to do is choose an order of the draft. So you start your league, start a blog post, choose the order of the draft, whether that be a coin toss or, some names in the paper in a hat or something. And then what you do is one by one, you pick 10 games that are coming out this calendar year, or at least you think are going to come out this calendar year, or that are scheduled to, that you feel will get the highest aggregate Metacritic score. And then at the end of the year, you tally the points and see who's the winner. It's not gambling, nothing like that. It's just a bit of fun. And actually, Vin, you started one that's posted on your blog if people want to check out how it works.
Mine is with Tomb Raiders. So if you go onto my blog, Vin Hill on sifted.net, you can find mine. I'm with Tomb Raiders. And basically, the best way that you can do it is if you both choose, like before you start picking and choosing between each other, just go like by yourself, choose 20 games. And then as you go through each one of them, you'll always both have 10 ready. So it's a good way of doing it.
That's a good point. Yeah. And then I have one on my blog as well. It's me, the stand user, versus Erebus Jones, Erebus Jones. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. So it's
I make that mistake. I don't even try to pronounce that anymore. I look at it, it's like, how do you pronounce that?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
man.
you just recognize it, right?
Yeah, please let me know at some point in some thread or some comment
Hey,
section.
don't hate us, man. I love you like a bro on that side, even though we disagree a lot.
Yeah, same. Same. I think we have fights like every day, but no, it's
The
all
three
cool.
of us have fights every day. It's usually the three of us, and we all disagree.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about Sifted, though, right? Like, we're not actually fighting. It's not like it's nothing personal. It's just
Right.
we all love video games. We're all just talking about games.
And
yeah,
then
no, cool.
Yeah, and then I also have I set up a 5-player league with Alex, who's a moderator at Sifted. I think his logo is Kobe Bryant's Lakers jersey, which is posted on his blog. So what we did is we actually went through and chose each game one by one in the comments section of the blog. So yeah, in summation, it would be really cool to see other sifters start their own video game fantasy draft for 2016. So I recommend it. You obviously you don't necessarily have to do it, but I think it'd be fun. Check it out.
Yeah, cool. So for me, my content call out of the week actually goes to a forum post, which has been floating around for a long time. If you're on Sifted and you're on the forums, you've definitely seen this post. But it is the Name That Game, which is basically, I can't even remember who started it, but it's such a great idea.
I think it was Gogeta.
Gogeta, okay. Yeah, but basically, we each, if you're like the winner of the previous post, and you'll get what I'm saying, you write a small hint to a game that you're thinking of, and then everyone has to sort of guess. But some of them are really obscure and really vague, and it's really interesting to see like people try and fight out like, oh, is it this game? Is it that game? So yeah, I encourage everyone to go and check out the post and just join in. I mean, we've got maybe 5 or 6 guys that are just constantly like redoing the same thing. It'll be really interesting to get more and more people on that forum post. So jump in. Don't feel like you have to shy away from it because there's other guys in there that are in there all the time. Just get involved in it. It's really cool.
No, please. We need some fresh minds in there to come up with some games. We're running out of ideas.
Yeah, I'm going around in circles. But it's interesting. I've seen like a couple of the same games pop up, but the hints have been different from different people. So it's really interesting to see that sort of diversity,
It's not even really a content call out. It's more of a cry for help, isn't it?
I encourage everyone to go and play it. Go play the game, quote unquote, play the game. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of guys in there. Everyone's really nice. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the show, guys. The first one thing that I did want to say, if anyone wants to get involved with the actual show, if you want to be on the show, like Josh has been today, then you can do by just messaging me on Sifted. And it has to be through Sifted. You can't email me or whatever. So I'd sort of encourage people to come over and check out the site. But yeah, just send me a message on Sifted and let me know what sort of microphone you've got and if you've got a decent connection. They're pretty much the only 2 sort of requirements, But we're friendly guys, we'll put you on the list and we'll let you know as soon as we can have you on the show. But other than that, I'd like to say thank you to Josh for joining us. It's really cool to have you on, man.
I was happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
What is your Twitter handout and your sign-off, Josh?
FSBAlston. And FSB is basically, I know everybody's going to ask me about it, but it stands for Firestorm Brigade, and it's an old gamer clan I had way back in the days. But it's basically FSBAlston. No matter where I'm at, you can find me on that. Not just Twitter, but like anywhere.
Cool. How about you, Evan?
My Twitter handle is @TheStandUser, same as Sifted. My name is shit. Even the story behind it isn't very interesting.
And it's based on a game, isn't it?
Well, I don't want to get into that. It's shit. My Twitter handle is @TheStandUser, aka Brent. I kind of just want to change my name to @Evan, or not even @. Why am I saying? No, why am I asking Brent to change my Twitter handle? Brent, can you please?
Brent, you are the god of the internet. Please change everything.
Yeah, pretty much. He is the god.
Yeah.
I'll speak for Evan. I think he wants you, Brent, to change his name to just Evan on the site.
That's
full stop.
Full stop. I'm done.
It's all good. Okay, my Twitter handle is @VinHillArt. You can find some of my finger paintings, as we joked about last week, on there from time to time. But other than that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us, and we will definitely catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again. Goodbye.
Bye.
Full stop.